What could possibly ruin a quiet family evening besides an oversalted soup? Sometimes a child's innocent question hits so hard it shakes even the sturdiest walls. What did Tommy do, and why did his mother's scream echo through the entire house for the first time in years? The Green family's life ran like clockwork. Small rituals, habitual annoyances, tired compromises, their routine seemed so solid it could withstand a tornado. Every evening, Jill cooked dinner, sometimes inspired, more often on autopilot, just so no one would notice she herself was sick of her own cutlets. Her husband, Jerry, had long ago stopped noticing details. He had a special talent for looking through people like through foggy glass. In the evenings, he'd show up in the kitchen, quickly eat without raising his eyes, scroll through news on his phone, only grunting if the chat was full of nonsense about politics or the weather. Their only son, Tommy, was like background radio, always there, sometimes too loud, but without him the house felt too quiet. He was 12 now, a tricky age where you want to play soccer, try to understand adult secrets, and sometimes hug your mom for no reason, even if it's not cool anymore. That evening, nothing foretold disaster. Everything was on schedule. Jill anxiously chopping salad, Jerry grumbling about the news, Tommy fussing in his room. But suddenly he appeared in the kitchen with a strange look of determination. "Mom, why don't we have any family photos on the walls?" he asked, as if it was about the weather. Jill didn't even get the question at first. Then she looked at the bare walls. There had once been frames, now only faded spots and little nails, hammered in by someone from another life. "You know your dad doesn't like to dust," she tried to joke. "It's not dust, it's memory," Jerry grumbled, not looking up from his phone. "The walls look sad," Tommy insisted. "All my friends have family pictures, grandparents, funny baby shots. We have nothing." Something pricked inside Jill. Memory, like an old splinter, made itself known. She quickly tried to distract her son. "All right, get the plates, we'll eat soon." But Tommy wasn't listening. He pulled out a battered picture frame and placed it on the table triumphantly. "I found this in the garage." "Who's in the photo?" "It looks like you, Mom, but it isn't, right?" The photo was of a young woman, very much like Jill, but the look was different, lively, hopeful. Beside her stood a boy, younger than Tommy, also familiar. Jill barely kept her voice steady. "That's my sister," she muttered, and immediately caught Jerry's startled glance. "What sister?" he grunted, then bit his tongue. Tommy stared at his parents. "You never told me about her. Where's she? Why doesn't she come for holidays? Is she alive? Why don't we see her?" Jill was silent, old images flashing in her mind, her sister's voice, arguments over nothing, her mother's tears. "Not now, Tommy," she finally said, but her voice broke, suddenly strange. "Why not?" he pressed. "Because not everything can be explained right away," Jill snapped, panic starting to boil inside. Usually unflappable, Jerry got up, grabbed his phone, and left without finishing dinner. Jill was left alone with her son, the photo, and a memory she tried to bury for decades. That night, Tommy couldn't sleep. He felt as if he'd done something wrong, seeing how upset his mother was. But there was no guilt, just burning curiosity and worry. Why did no one talk about the sister? What secret was Mom hiding? Why did Dad bolt at the mere mention? Jill paced the kitchen, wiping away tears and cursing the day she decided to hide that photo. She feared the past would destroy their present life. Maybe it already had, maybe no one wanted to admit it. It was a long, hard night. The house felt smaller, the walls seemed closer, even the fridge hummed louder than usual. But Jill knew the questions would keep coming. And if she didn't answer soon, Tommy would find the truth himself. By then, it might be too late to change anything. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how this unravels. Sometimes, one question cuts deeper than a knife and starts tearing the past apart. Why is Mom hiding the truth, and what letters are these walls keeping from their own family? The next morning, the greenhouse was thick with silence, like jelly after yesterday's disaster. Saturdays usually began with Jerry's boisterous calls, "Whoever's up is the hero." But today, Dad seemed to have vanished into thin air. Jill found him in the garage, pretending to search for a wrench. Clearly, he was running from questions. Tommy sat at the kitchen table over his oatmeal, not eating. His spoon clinked against the bowl, dull and rhythmic, like a countdown. Jill sat opposite, unable to meet his eyes. "Mom," Tommy started hesitantly, "why were you crying last night?" "I wasn't crying," she lied, instantly hating herself. If there's anyone she shouldn't lie to, it's her son. "I heard you," Tommy said quietly. "And I saw the photo." Jill nervously brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, tried to smile. "Sometimes adults have a hard time," she said. "But it's not your fault." "What if it is because of me?" Tommy asked. "I didn't mean to upset you, honest." She felt something clench inside again. How do you explain to a child that it's not about him, but about mistakes he can't even imagine yet? "Tommy," she said gently, "you didn't do anything wrong. There are just things that are hard to explain, especially if they're about the past." Tommy frowned. His mom's mysteries never scared him before, but now he felt there was something scary behind her silence. All day he wandered the house, searching for an invisible crack. He tried talking to Dad, but Jerry just grumbled about a broken bike and ducked the subject. He called Grandma, she said, "Ask your mother, she knows more." He called his uncle, he said it was none of his business. At some point, Tommy came to Mom with a new question. "How did you meet Dad?" Jill was surprised no one had asked about her past in a long time. "It's a long story." "I'm listening," Tommy said, refusing to back down. Jill inhaled deeply. Her inner voice whispered, "Not now, don't," but her son was looking at her so intensely she couldn't turn away. "We met in college," she finally said. "I wasn't living at home anymore. I'd fought with my mom and my sister." Tommy raised his eyebrows. "You said the photo was your sister." "Yes," Jill nodded, her throat dry. "Her name is Sam. She was 3 years younger than me." "Where's she now?" Tommy asked bluntly. Mom froze as if unplugged. She stared at the table for a minute, then barely whispered. "We haven't spoken in a long time. After a big fight." Tommy saw his mother truly vulnerable for the first time, not the kitchen boss, not the best mom, but a woman who'd once been betrayed herself. "Don't you want her back?" "I don't know where she is," Jill said quietly. "After that fight, many years passed. I tried to find her, then I stopped." Tommy felt a surge of irritation. "If someone kicked me out, would you look for me?" "Of course," she answered instantly. "You're my son. And she's your sister." The silence hung heavy and sticky. Jill sighed. "Sometimes we make mistakes we can't forgive ourselves for." At that moment, a knock came, neighbor Mrs. Reeves, bringing pie for morale. "You look like you've seen a ghost, Jill," she said, peering at her friend. "Is it because of the boy?" "He found an old photo," Jill answered, eyes down. "It's time you stopped fearing the past," Mrs. Reeves said firmly. "It won't erase itself." After the neighbor left, Tommy quietly asked, "Mom, are you really afraid of your sister?" Jill flushed. "I'm afraid not of her, but of who I was around her." Tommy didn't understand, but something in her voice made him uneasy. He suddenly felt, if Mom won't talk about the past, something terrible must be there. That night, he decided to act. He dug out the old tablet, browsed the family archive, photos, letters, documents, some notes. Almost everything had been deleted, as if someone had deliberately erased the traces. Only in one folder did he find a file called Letters. Opening it, Tommy saw scanned sheets written in a child's shaky handwriting. "Jill, if you're reading this, you're still my sister." He read line after line, each full of pain and love, making his heart ache. "I miss you, our talks in the kitchen, your silly jokes. Why did it end? Why can't we fix it?" Tommy realized this story was much deeper than a family spat. A thought flashed, what if Mom fears these letters more than anything? He heard a rustle in the hallway. Mom stood by the door listening. Tommy quickly closed the folder, his heart pounding like he'd broken the law. "Looking for something?" Jill asked, her voice trembling. "No, just wanted to play music," Tommy lied. That night, nobody in the greenhouse slept. Mother and son, each on their own side of the wall, both wondered, how do you live when the past demands answers? This is just the beginning. Tomorrow, Tommy will learn family secrets are more dangerous than any fairy tale. Don't miss how the truth starts to come out. What happens when a child starts digging into family history? Sometimes the truth is more dangerous than any punishment. Some secrets adults are willing to keep silent about for a lifetime. Sunday morning was heavy. Tommy woke up from a strange dream. He was walking down a long hallway, walls covered in photographs, but all the faces were erased, and from behind a door came muffled crying. He shuddered, got up, and sensed the house was cold again, and not because of the weather. Jill brewed coffee as if grinding up her own thoughts. Jerry was at the TV, which wasn't even on anything to avoid seeing his wife and son. In the awkward quiet, every sound was a crime. Even a spoon falling to the floor echoed like thunder. "Mom, can I go to Grandma's?" Tommy finally asked, just to break the silence. "Not a good time today," Jill replied nervously. "Why not stay with me? Why don't you talk to your sister?" Tommy blurted out. "You always said family's everything." Jill pressed her lips together, but to her son's surprise, didn't turn away. "You don't know the whole story, Tommy. I used to think that too, until I learned to fear my own decisions." Tommy stayed silent, watching his mom's hand tremble around her coffee mug. "I want to know," he said, "even if it hurts." Just then, Jerry's footsteps thundered in the hallway. He was getting ready for work, though it was Sunday. He didn't kiss Jill goodbye, just tossed over his shoulder. "Don't dig up old crap, Jill. We've kept it locked up for years. Let it stay there." The door slammed and the silence grew even louder. Jill went to the window, watching Jerry drive off. "You know," she finally said, "your dad never liked looking back. It's easier for him to pretend nothing before now matters. And for you. For me, it was easier not to remember than to forgive. What needs forgiving?" Tommy persisted. Jill didn't answer. She pulled out the box of letters, the same one Tommy had seen. "This is all that's left of my sister," she sighed. "Letters and my guilt." Tommy took one. "Why did you hide them?" "Because they remind me of how stupid and stubborn I was," Jill laughed bitterly. "Sam and I were like cat and dog. I always thought I knew best, and one time I told her to leave." Tommy looked at his mom as if she were a stranger, not the kitchen boss, not the best mom, but a woman who'd once betrayed someone. "Don't you want her back?" "I don't know where she is," Jill said. "After that fight, so many years went by. I tried, then stopped." Tommy felt sharp irritation. "If someone kicked me out, would you look for me?" "Of course," Jill replied instantly. "You're my son. And she's your sister." The silence was thick. Jill sighed. "Sometimes we make mistakes we can never forgive ourselves for." A knock. Mrs. Reeves again. She walked right in, sensing trouble. "Oh, another storm here," she said. "Jill, if you don't want to lose your son, stop hiding behind old grudges." "What do you know about my Aunt Sam?" Tommy asked. The neighbor grinned. "I know your mom was always the most stubborn kid on the street. If she hadn't closed the door, your family would be so different." After Mrs. Reeves left, Jill was silent for a long time. Then she handed the letters to her son. "If you want to know the truth, read. But don't expect to like it. Sometimes adults make mistakes they spend a lifetime paying for." Tommy sat in his room, leafing through those old letters. They held jokes, tears, pleas for forgiveness, scraps of old arguments, and then one short note. "If you don't want to see me, I understand. But if you do, I'm always here." He gripped the letter so tightly it crumpled. Now he knew it was up to him to bring his aunt home, even if it meant breaking all the adult rules. This isn't the end. Tommy's only begun searching for the truth and doesn't even realize how scary this road will be. Don't miss how family ghosts come alive. How much does it cost to admit you were wrong? Sometimes adults would rather build a house of silence than say one word sorry. But what if a child dares to break all those rules and opens the old doors himself? The greenhouse dragged through the week like a long, sticky shadow, each day a copy of the last. Jerry started coming home later, afraid to return to the charged air. Jill wandered the kitchen half asleep, avoiding her son's gaze. Tommy felt helpless. Whatever he did, nothing helped. The old letters under his pillow burned like a fever. School didn't bring relief. Teachers asked questions, classmates messed around, but Tommy felt like he was watching through fogged glass. All he thought about was finding Aunt Sam, the one no one wanted to talk about. What if she's waiting? What if she's alive? What if she's lonely too? One day after school, as Tommy stayed in the library, the principal, Mrs. Hall, called out to him. "Tommy, you seem down lately. Is everything okay at home?" He shrugged. Why involve adults in family drama? Mom's just sad a lot. Family's tough, Mrs. Hall smiled. Sometimes all it takes is one letter to fix things. He stifled a nervous laugh. Letters he had plenty of. But what to do with them, no one explained. That evening, Jerry disappeared into the garage, Jill faked being busy cooking, and Tommy finally acted. He laid out the letters on the living room floor like tarot cards. "Mom, I was wondering, if you saw Aunt Sam now, what would you say?" Jill froze in the doorway, knife and carrot in hand. She hesitated. "I probably couldn't say anything." "Why not?" "Sometimes words just make things worse." Tommy pressed. "But she wrote to you so many times." "Look, Jill, I miss you. Forgive me if you can. Isn't that enough to talk?" Mom sat down next to him, massaging her temples. "When we were little, I always thought I was in charge, always right. Sam was different. She knew how to forgive, I didn't. The last time we fought over nothing. I told her to leave and never come back. And then, life happened, college, Jerry, pregnancy, new life. I thought it would all be forgotten." Tommy listened, barely breathing. He couldn't imagine living with that much pain for years. "Did you love her?" "Of course," Jill breathed. "I just didn't know how to be a sister." While they talked, Jerry came in for water. Overhearing, he quipped, "Well, now you've talked. Maybe now you'll explain to your son why we have no photos on the walls." "Shut up, Jerry," Jill snapped. "It's easy for you not to remember, I can't." Jerry shrugged and left. Tommy looked at the letters again. "Maybe we can find her?" "I don't know, Tommy." Jill's voice was fragile as spring ice. "What if she doesn't want to see me?" Tommy hugged his mom, feeling oddly grown up. "What if she does?" That night, Tommy finally acted. When his parents were asleep, he went online. First, he searched for Aunt Sam by name, nothing. Then he found an old Facebook page with her photo. A young woman, sly smile, red hair, familiar chin. The profile hadn't updated since 2013. But in her friends, someone named Hall from a nearby town. Tommy sent a message. "Hello. I'm Tommy, Jill's son. Looking for my Aunt Sam. Is this you?" No reply. But that step brought energy into the house. Next morning, Jill smiled at her son for the first time in a week. "What do you want for breakfast?" "Doesn't matter," he smiled. "As long as we're together." It felt brighter at home. But Tommy knew the hardest part was yet to come. Once the past wakes up, you'd better be ready. Next, everything will change. Who will open the door first, a ghost or the person who's waited for forgiveness all these years? Don't miss how old wounds start to heal. What if a single click online can break down walls built for decades? Sometimes answers come from where you least expect, and the consequences are far more dangerous than any family secret. The night was restless. Tommy tossed and turned, staring at his phone's dim light. No answer from Aunt Sam. All he saw were message-read notifications. His insides twisted. What if this was a mistake? What if she was angry? Or not even the right Sam? He tried to sleep, but his thoughts spun. What if I only made things worse? At dawn, Tommy dozed off. He dreamed a strange scene. He walked down a corridor with photos on the walls. Now on them, he stood with an unfamiliar woman. She smiled, waved, then disappeared. Tommy woke up, heart racing, everything more confusing than before. The house was silent. Jill sat in the kitchen, lost in her coffee. Jerry, as usual, vanished to the garage, banging tools and muttering. "Did you sleep?" Mom asked, noticing her son's dark circles. "Not really," Tommy mumbled, not ready to talk. "Something wrong?" "Just tired," he said, heading to his room. Tommy was about to eat when his phone lit up. Shaky hands unlocked the screen. Their same red-haired woman. The message. "Hi. Yes, it's me. Tell me, why are you looking for me?" His chest tightened. He typed. "I found your letters to Mom. She misses you. Can we talk?" Reply came quick. Are you sure she wants this? She kicked me out. I never wanted to return where I wasn't wanted. Tommy took a deep breath. This was real, not a game. He remembered his mom crying over the letters every evening, turning tragic. I'm sure. She talks about you a lot. She just can't say sorry. Minutes passed. Then. Okay. But I want to talk to you first, Tommy. Can I call? Tommy nearly dropped the phone. He didn't know what to say but quickly typed yes and waited, nerves shot. The call came at lunch. Aunt Sam's voice was husky, a hint of sarcasm. So, Detective, you decided to take on the family skeletons? Tommy stammered, then laughed. If you knew how tired I am of all this silence. Silence is an adult's best friend, Sam said. Your mom, it seems, hasn't changed. Jill peeked into the room. Who are you talking to? Aunt Sam, Tommy replied. The phone was quiet for a moment. Jill's there? She's here. Sam sighed. Tell her I'll talk. But only if she says sorry. Tommy looked at Mom. She stood frozen. Her face paled, eyes wide. Tommy handed her the phone as if it were a bomb with a burning fuse. Mom, it's her. Jill took the phone gingerly, afraid to hear her own guilt out loud. Hi, Sam. Her voice broke. Hi, Jill, replied her sister. It's been years, but I still remember your silly pies. And you'll forgive me? If you ask, Sam said. Pause. Jill shut her eyes, exhaled. I'm sorry. Suddenly something changed. The room filled with a new kind of air. Tommy couldn't believe it. This week they'd come further than in years. I'll come tomorrow, Sam said. If you don't mind. I don't mind, Jill breathed. When it ended, Tommy looked at his mother. She was crying, but this time not from fear. Thank you, she whispered. You did what I feared most. Jerry stuck his head in. These kids. One of you logs onto the internet and all the family skeletons come falling out. At least you didn't start a family YouTube show. Tommy laughed. That night, he finally slept peacefully, knowing tomorrow everything would be different. But is anyone really ready to face the past head-on? Don't miss how old grudges come out into the open and put everything in its place. What's it like to wait for a guest you once sent away yourself? Sometimes preparing for a reunion is scarier than the reunion itself. Can old walls withstand truths no one dared to speak out loud? The house was in chaos that morning. Jill ran between kitchen and living room, polishing the same mug over and over, forgetting where she put the rag or who was supposed to sit where. Tommy followed her, catching her nervous energy, hands shaking, not knowing what to do. Jerry finally emerged from the garage after a night spent fixing a bike, pretending not to care about the upcoming meeting. Breakfast was silent. No one could find words, even Jerry had no usual household jokes. The air was heavy, thick like the moment before a summer storm. Secretly, Tommy checked his messages for the 20th time. Has she left yet? Where is she? What if she changes her mind? He ran through greetings in his head. Hi, Auntie. I'm glad you're here. But none felt right. He tried to distract himself by rereading Sam's old letters, funny drawings, scraps of jokes, deep apologies Mom had never accepted. By noon, it was clear nothing ordinary would get done today. Even Jerry, who usually escaped to go fishing, sat silently in his chair, wiping his glasses even though they were spotless. Jill took out the family album several times, then put it away, scared to look at the few remaining photos. When the clock neared 2, an old car sputtered in the yard. Everyone froze. Jill jumped up. Tommy stood next to her. Jerry crossed his arms like a bouncer. A woman in her 40s, worn jeans and a bright jacket, red hair in a messy ponytail, approached the gate. Sam looked at the house as if she'd studied every crack in the walls for years. She stood a moment, took a deep breath, then walked up to the door. Jill opened it before she could knock. Hi, Sam, Jill breathed, voice trembling. Hi, Sam replied simply. A silence so thick you could cut it with a knife filled the house. Tommy expected a movie-like reunion, everyone hugging and crying. Nothing like that happened. Instead, Jill awkwardly led Sam in, first to an armchair, then changed her mind, put her on the couch, and sat across. Tea, she asked, as if it was the most important decision of her life. Sure, Sam smirked. Jerry watched, dropping dry comments. Told you redheads always come back. While the kettle boiled, Sam glanced around. A lot's changed. Not much has changed, Jill countered. Only the walls turned yellow. You're still the same, Sam smiled. Always in control. Tommy sat between them, catching glances, listening as if it was an exam for his future. He didn't know how to handle this atmosphere where every move felt too loud. Tea ready, conversation stopped, awkward silence. Sam broke it. I didn't come for drama. Just wanted to look you in the eye. Sometimes it's easier to forgive yourself than others. And sometimes it's easier not to speak at all, Jill insisted. Tommy burst. Can't we just start over? Both women laughed, a nervous but alive laugh. Then they talked about nothing, weather, neighbors, how Jill always won at Monopoly. Jerry, yeah, the family monopoly on drama is still yours. Jill tried to keep cool, but at one point her voice cracked. Why didn't you write the past few years? Because you didn't answer, Sam replied. I stopped waiting. Jill looked up, real pain in her eyes. I was ashamed. And scared. I thought you hated me. I always loved you, Sam said softly. Tommy sat quietly, feeling for the first time not like a child, but someone who made a real difference. He watched Mom and Aunt Sam. There was air in the room now. A chance to breathe. Late that night, as Sam was about to leave, Jill hesitantly said, Stay for dinner. Sam smiled. As long as you don't overcook the cutlets like you did as a kid. All three laughed, honest and loud, as if someone had cleared out all the house's accumulated junk. But even then, Tommy felt, true forgiveness was still ahead. The hardest part was just beginning. Sometimes it's not enough to meet, you have to learn to talk again. Don't miss the first honest confession this family's waited for years. Can you really forgive each other for years of silence? Sometimes the most important thing is not to meet, but to finally hear what everyone was afraid to say. How will the Green family handle the truth, and what will change after their most honest dinner ever? The morning after the long-awaited reunion began with an unusual quiet, not the stifling kind, but light, airy, like after a summer rain. The house smelled of fresh bread. Jill fussed in the kitchen warming leftovers, Sam in the bathroom sifting through old photos. Tommy, overwhelmed by emotion, just sat at the window, looking at the yard. Even Jerry seemed calmer than usual. He drank his coffee quietly and didn't complain when their cat, Bucks, flopped onto his newspaper. Tommy felt a strange mix of relief and anxiety. It felt like the most important moment in the family's life. Yesterday it seemed everyone had beaten their pain, but today he realized the past isn't erased with one visit. No one rushed out for errands. Sam stayed for breakfast, a miracle. Before, no relative stayed at the Greens for more than a couple of hours. Jill listened cautiously to herself, her sister's glances, the quiet between words. Sam, she said, pouring coffee, isn't the couch cold for sleeping? After sleeping at train stations, I'm fine on a chair, Sam joked. Everyone laughed, but each felt a sting. Everyone had their own pain to carry. After breakfast, it was cleaning day. Sam rolled up her sleeves and scrubbed the stove so hard even Jill was amazed. Tommy sorted old boxes, looking for traces of the past. Kids' drawings, a broken racket, and in one envelope, a card, to my most annoying sister, from Jill. Sam teased. See, I kept these cards longer than my diploma. And for nothing. I only wrote nonsense back then, Jill laughed. I wrote nothing but love notes, but you burned those, Sam quipped. You survived. Jill shot back. That evening, with the sun sinking lazily outside, the family gathered at the table. Jerry heaped on the potatoes, then awkwardly coughed. So, let's do it. Gonna talk, or just communicate through the cat? Everyone laughed, real, warm laughter for the first time in years. Jill looked at Sam. So many memories in her eyes. I keep thinking, how much time we wasted on grudges. Sam nodded. We were good sisters. We just never learned to say sorry at the right time. At least now we can, Jill said, her voice trembling with truth. They talked for hours, sharing fears. Jill admitted she was afraid of being the bad daughter again, which kept her from searching for Sam. Sam confessed she dreamed of coming back, but feared hearing, "You're not family anymore." Even Jerry said fixing bikes was easier than fixing people, but he was glad Tommy was braver than all of them. Tommy listened, feeling, for the first time, like he truly belonged. He realized, adults don't always know what to do, but they have the courage to admit mistakes, and that's more important than secrets. When the talk ended, Sam stood up. "So, will you take me back into the family?" Jill hugged her sister tightly, afraid to ever lose her again. "I don't know how we lived without you." Bugs the cat dashed in, jumped on the table, knocked over a mug of tea. Everyone laughed. The cat, too, was part of this story, always reminding them, life goes on, no matter what. That night, Tommy went to bed feeling the house was bigger, lighter, and stronger. No more secret letters under the pillow, no more questions with no answers. There were people different, tired, but ready to go on together. The next morning, Jill hung the first family photo in years. Everyone was there. Jill, Sam, Jerry, Tommy, and even the cheeky cat Bucks. Tommy smiled. Now this house truly had a future. Sometimes all a family needs is to remember to say sorry, and I'm here. The end of one story is only the beginning of a new life. Don't miss how it really turns out.